If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button as well as the bell to be notified of future videos. Thank you.
Good day to all listeners. I am Sharon Jephta, retired Lieutenant General, who served in the South African Police Service for 38 years and 3 months. I joined the South African Police Service in July 1981 and retired in October 2019. In the previous episode, I spoke about some of my experiences within the police service. That included my experience at some of the stations where I was stationed on the Cape Flats. I also spoke about some of the challenges I faced as a woman, pioneering the way for other women in the police. In this episode, I would like to speak about why it is important for a police officer, no matter the rank, to know his or her personal authority and how to use it to build the organization, your colleagues, and the community that you serve. I will speak about my experience as a station commander and using my personal authority as well as the authority that comes with the rank. Being the station commander at Philippi was the post in the police that was the most satisfying, as I was able to be creative and initiate so many projects to improve policing and improving the lives of others. I was able to live out my personal authority and experience the contentment and gratification that comes from serving the nation through my natural gifts and inherent purpose. As a station commander, I had the certainty that I was not wasting my life, but that I was using my time, talents, experience, and energy in the best ways possible. Being a station commander automatically produced a passion and vision for the future and gave me a tremendous internal motivation to act on my purpose and gifts and to see my vision become a reality. My internal motivation and passion fostered a persevering attitude within me as I could put my plans into action, see results, and keep on believing and moving forward. I was appointed as the first female station commander in the Area West Metropole in the Western Cape. One of the first tasks that was at hand was to create an environment in which my members could do their jobs, which required me to depend on my skill of influencing members to approach their work positively. There are 3 categories of people at a police station who are viewed by seniors and peers to be inferior to those working in the office, crime prevention and detectives. These are your members working on shifts, reservists, and cleaners at a station. For me as a station commander, they were the most important people, as they are the face of the South African police, of a police station, and they are at the point of service delivery. It was important to place members on shifts who had a friendly attitude, pay strong attention to detail, have the ability to multitask, have excellent communication skills, who can use discretion, and who was a team player. I used my authority as a station commander and selected members for the shifts carefully, without interfering with the optimal operation of the station. It was important for me to equip them to deliver a service of excellence and not to disturb their routine, whether at work or home. I presented lectures to them, including reservists on customer service, and trained them in their job description in order for them to understand their responsibilities. At that time, reservists were trained at the station, and I took responsibility together with a reservist coordinator to train reservists in all modules and ensure that they are qualified and included in the operation of the station. I took the cleaners on a tour throughout the station and pointed out where the grime was. I showed them how to walk from the gate through the station and how to look at the premises through the eyes of a client. The station had to look and smell fresh at all times. I told them that their job description, their job was to create a conducive environment for all working at the station and not just to clean. I gave them a lecture on occupational health and told them their responsibilities with regards to the occupational health of everyone working and visiting the station. I knew as the first woman station commander in the area, I had to be on top of my game. I must be honest, as a station commander, you experience feelings of isolation and extreme pressure to perform. There were no women in this game that I could fall back on for support, and I had to create my own brand, as I was not prepared to emulate my male colleagues that have been doing this job for years without any visible impact. I knew I had to give 120%. As I was breaking the glass ceiling for women and had to run the race harder and longer than my male colleagues, having more obstacles to overcome and have more to prove. I had to be excellent in everything I do, to be considered half as good as my male colleagues. I had to deal with members at the station who is not used to female commanders and who viewed females as inferior to men. I had to make sure that I treat the male egos the right way and to use that very egos for service delivery improvement. I developed my own unique way of dealing with the stresses that existed in the community, at the station and at home. It was a real balancing act that had to be perfected, as I did not want to fail in any of these areas in my life. Walking with an attitude was the top of my game, as I knew my presence in a room made people to believe in me and what I was doing at the time. I knew I was a different shade of blue, being an outsider on the inside, and had the qualities to bring passion, compassion, and empathy in the station environment. I knew that other station commanders were watching me and watched whether any exceptions were made for me because I was a woman. As a woman station commander, I did not try to become like my male counterparts, although it was a male-dominated environment. It was important for me to stand out and not just to fit in. I did not want to be perceived as weak or incompetent, but rather to fly the flag for women, breaking barriers. At the time that I was a station commander at Philippi, Bathupele, improving government services, was just introduced and was the buzzword in every government department, including the South African Police Service. Bathupele is a Sesotho word that means people first. It was introduced to transform the public service and to get public servants to be committed to service delivery and require the involvement of the public in holding the public service accountable for the quality of service provided. I knew as the station commander, I had the authority to take the lead and to ensure that Bathupele is understood by all members and that it should be inculcated as a culture of policing within my station area. I also knew that it would be challenging, as all police officers at my station have not been trained in a people-friendly manner, and that I had to play a key role in creating an environment for them to become effective in the way they interacted with the community. My role as a station commander was to be an enabler by ensuring that my members are equipped to deliver a service in line with Pathopele. I have ensured that they are equipped by giving lectures on the 8 principles of Pathopele and implemented various systems at the station for those principles to become visible to both members and the public. The best and most mechanically reliable vehicles were allocated to the shifts to enable them to respond within the standard time to complaints or serious crime incidents. The station area consisted of a rural community as well as a gang-infested community on the other side, which needed me to implement different policing approaches and to make sure that my members understood such approaches. On the one hand, I have heavily relied on the SANDF commandos and farm watchers for policing, while on the other side, I relied on the reservists, community police forums, neighborhood watches, and street committees for policing. One of my first projects I implemented at the station was the establishment of a victim support room, which volunteers from the community managed. The project has its origin from an incident of a missing child in the community. I have managed through the assistance of the Community Police Forum, neighborhood watches and street committees to mobilize the whole community into different search parties and manage the search process very systematically, from street to street and house to house, until we found the body of the child. I established an operational room within the community, utilizing the community hall that was central to the community, where people could come and share information and where teams were registered and tasked and feedback were received. It was just amazing how the community pulled together despite the territory established by gangs in the area. All police officers at the station have experienced the trauma with the community. We established a trauma room together with a religious fraternity at the station as well as at the advice office in the community to debrief the community and police officers. The incident united the community and the police and gave birth to the establishment of a fully equipped victim support room managed by fully trained volunteers from the community at the police station. It also gave us an opportunity to develop an standing operational procedure for missing children in our station area and for the operation of the victim support room. We also started a community project called The Eye on the Child, where the community took responsibility to watch over children as they went to school and came from school to make sure that they were safe. They also started with extramural activities to keep children busy after school, while parents were at work to protect them. This assisted greatly, as parents had peace of mind whilst being at work and no child went missing in the station precinct for the rest of the time that I was the station commander. Service delivery improvement was part of my makeup, as it was the main reason why I joined the South African Police Service. And all my members at the station knew my heartbeat. I would use monthly station lectures to lecture my members, including investigation officers, on service delivery improvement. They soon knew that I was very serious about dealing with complaints from community against service delivery and that they will face consequences for any bad services delivered. In the first few weeks at the station, I have witnessed my members coming from either operations or attending complaints, being assaulted and their uniforms ripped by violent attacks from specifically women in the community. I started to join my members in some of the planned operations, walking in front challenging women to assault me before assaulting my members. In fact, the community newspaper accompanied us to one such operation and placed a front page article showing pictures of where my members' shirts were torn and full of blood, and one where I was leading the operation, warning women of action I will take should any cop be assaulted. I knew that most of the community were reading the community newspaper and would notice the front page article. The assaults of the police officers stopped immediately after the article was placed in the community newspaper. The response of the community was overwhelming. After the article in the community newspaper, and I was offered a space in the newspaper to place weekly articles. This has allowed us to communicate to the community and many households about crime trends, modus operandi, operational successes, and general crime prevention hints. I knew I was placed at Philippi to make a difference and was trusting my ability to fulfill it. I was not afraid of failing or of anyone who may criticize me or attempt to prevent me from doing it, as I have such a conviction about my calling that I just moved forward with anticipation and purpose. I knew myself and also knew what my deepest desire was. I also knew that I was passionate about what made me angry, what ideas were persistent in my heart and mind, and what I wanted for humanity. I remember one morning I visited the cells, and as usual, to make sure that we are in compliance with all prescripts relating to the arrest and detention management. It was important that all my members know that the well-being of prisoners was important and that they should take serious action to ensure that their human rights are upheld whilst in custody. Accompanied by 2 other members, we moved from cell to cell. When we were finished at one of the cells, one prisoner suddenly swore at me in particular. The 2 cops who accompanied me wanted to remove him from the cell and sort him out. I know you would know how cops would sort him out. I ordered them to leave him and that I would deal with him. I went to the cell door where he was still standing and said to him softly and in a calm voice, "If my children should hear what you have just said to me, they would tell me to give up my work immediately and stay at home to raise them." This embarrassed him so much that he hit his head against the metal cell door so hard that he injured himself, having a gashing wound on his front head. It was so severe that we had to call an ambulance for medical assistance. As he was hitting his head against the cell door, he asked me to forgive him. My members could not believe the reaction my words had on him. I have taught them that day that you do not use fire to put out fire, as they intended to do. I need to mention that this was the very first time in my career that someone swore at me, and also the very last time. I have never experienced any other verbal abuse from anyone, despite the fact that I have made many arrests. I believe that I was respected by both my colleagues and the community because I have never been disrespectful towards any colleague or member of the public. By the grace of God, I was never assaulted or attacked by anyone throughout my career. My members knew my heartbeat in terms of service delivery and also knew that children and the elderly were very close to my heart. One morning, 2 members who attended to complaints came rushing to my office, demanding me to accompany them to a house where they have established a gross neglect against an elderly blind man. Neighbors who were complaining about the stench and cries coming from one of the backyard houses. When they could not gain entrance to the house, they broke down the door and found an elderly blind man that could not walk, tied to a rope around his neck, lying on a bed in his own feces, without any food, listening to a radio. The sight of the man made us all cry, as it was so inhumane and beyond our minds, as we could not comprehend that someone can treat another person like that. We established that he was staying with his son and that his son was locking him up for days while working away from home, without any food or water at times. He had no access to any ablution facility or water to wash him. We opened a criminal case against the son, who was charged and sentenced. We roped in the help of social development and moved the elderly man to an elderly care facility amid a huge protest from him. One of his reasons for protesting was that he was going to miss the minstrels, which was the highlight of festivals in the Western Cape during festive season. His son has promised him that he will take him to see the minstrels upon his return. He made sure that we packed his radio, as it was the only company he had at the time. He was on top of all news and what was happening in the world, as he was listening to his radio day and night. We still visited him regularly at the care facility until his death. One Saturday morning I visited the police station and found an 11-year-old girl playing with a baby in the sand at the back of the police station in the yard. At that time, I thought the girl was playing with her sister while her parents might be inside somewhere doing business. The baby was about 8 months old, as she was already crawling. I visited the cells and inspected the registers in the community service center, still listening to the laughter of the children playing outside. I later asked the sergeant in the community service center where the parents of these children were, as I have not noticed them anywhere around. The sergeant then informed me that the girl refused to go home and she was afraid of her father, as he was drunk. He informed me further that he has called the member of the patrol vehicle to come in and to take the children home and to warn the father. I then started to question the girl to find out if she was abused in any way and why she was afraid of her father. She informed me that since she refused to sleep with him, he became violent and assaults her all the time. I then asked how old her sister was, referring to the baby and why her mother was not with. You can imagine my surprise, as words and reaction has evaded me and made me to freeze when she told me that the baby was not her sister, but a child. I needed more than a few seconds to compose myself and to get the shock out of my system without showing the girl, as I needed her to trust me. She then told me that the people at home say that her father is the father of the child and that he repeatedly raped her even after the birth of the child. I contacted social development, who accompanied me to the home of the girl, where we established that she was speaking the truth. We also established that all in the family and the surrounding community were aware of what was happening to the girl. The child, together with the baby, was removed from the parents, who were arrested and charged. After this discovery, together with the Community Police Forum, we embarked on information sessions about sexual offences at schools, churches and other places of gathering to equip the community and in specific young girls to prevent rapes and sexual offences. We started with Project No, meaning that you as a girl can say no to sex, and no to someone who makes you feel uncomfortable and who touches your private body parts. During these sessions, many girls opened up about their family, neighbors, or friends that raped them, resulting in the increase of rape cases. I was able to explain the sudden increase of rape cases as people became more aware of their rights. At that time when I was a station commander, theft of crops and stock theft was a major problem in the area, in the farming community. Assault amongst farm workers, and in particular domestic violence, was also very high due to alcohol abuse. Some of the contributing factors to this crime were the unfenced farms, no lighting in the area, and farms that had no names or street numbers visible. Farmers also refused police access to their farms and would only allow them on the farm if they called them. The modus operandi of those stealing the crop and stock was to harvest during the night time on the inside of the land so that they cannot be noticed from the street. It is only when you are on foot that you will be able to notice the thieves. We conducted waylay operations together with the farmers and SANDF and managed to arrest various syndicates for stealing crops and stock. We were able to address the issue of unmarked farms and access to farms quickly, as everyone worked together to make it work. We also implemented a formal visiting system where the farmer or someone on his behalf had to sign the visiting register that was kept on the patrol van and monitored for compliance by myself and the crime prevention head. We were able to use the crime statistics and crime pattern analysis to identify problem farms and to ensure visibility during high crime times. The fencing was still a challenge, as many farmers indicated that it was too expensive and that they have replaced the fences many times, but it is being removed by the perpetrators and is not able to keep them out. We were able to build good intelligence network in the farming community together with farmers, farm workers and the SANDF, through which we have arrested syndicates involved in theft of crops and stock theft. I remember the first time that we had a waylay operation on a pig farm that was targeted. It was during the winter, and when we planned to have the operation, the members were not very happy, as they had to sit in the pigsty for the night to wait for the thieves, acting on intelligence from a very reliable source. They had to sit for 3 nights before the thieves struck and entered the pigsty with sharp instruments to kill the pigs before carrying it to their vehicles, which were parked in the dark down the road. According to the members, it was about 3 a.m. in the morning when they heard footsteps and whispering approaching the pigsty. They were hiding at the back and suddenly pounced on the thieves before they could kill any of the pigs. Some of the members will still narrate the fun they had with the operation and how they were keeping one another from falling asleep during the night. They had such fun every time when the pig was farting. In any case, it was either the fart or the smell of the pigsty that kept them awake. They could not make their usual turn at the roadhouse for coffee or enjoy a snack or a meal during the operation for obvious reasons, but soon found out that they could chew chewing gum and some sweets to keep the hunger away. I remember that I visited the farm one day together with another member. When I exited the vehicle and heading for the front door, a dog suddenly appeared and was charging us. I was still a distance from the front door and then jumped through the closest bedroom window to avoid being bitten by the dog. Luckily, the window was not too high, and I could jump through it quick enough to prevent the dog biting me, to the amazement of the farmer's wife, who was busy dressing in her room. You can imagine her response when she suddenly saw me in uniform in her bedroom. Well, we later settled with coffee on the stoop, with the dog being very friendly around us. I knew that it was important to ensure food security, as many businesses and communities were dependent on the provision of the farms in my station area. We had mock farm attacks twice a year to test our mobilization orders, keep the farming community alert, and to make amendments when necessary. Only the planning committee would know about the operation. The response of the farming community was always flawless and resulted in them being vigilant at all times. Farm attacks decreased significantly due to cooperation between the police and role players in the farming community. Standing Order 28 became my Bible as a station commander, as I executed my duty strictly as guided by the standing order. I made an in-depth study of the legal framework applicable to the station commanders and ensured that I comply strictly. I adopted the habit to park my vehicle in the yard and walk to the front gate, where the clients will enter and will use the entrance to the police station the same way clients will do, to observe what clients will observe when entering the police station, from the way the flags were hoisted, looking for any dirt lying around, or just if the pathway or windows were clean. I believe that the community service center was the front door of my home, and that it should leave an impression on everyone visiting it. Members knew that they had to keep it spotless and inviting 24/7. No one was allowed to hand over to the next shift if the community service center was not clean. The shift commander had to certify through an occurrence book entry that he has handed over a clean community service center, and the shift commander taking over had to verify in the occurrence book that he received a clean community service center. Flowers and pot plants were always part of the decor in the community service center. I made sure that no broken or dilapidated furniture were placed in the community service center, and even swapped broken chairs in the community service center with chairs in my office to ensure that we portray a good image. I requested members to voluntarily work in the garden once a month, where we also started with a peace garden at the back of the police station. This in itself was therapy for members who worked under a lot of strain. Every second Friday we would have spring cleaning after lunch at the station, where we would clean out the police station from the back to front, despite the fact that we had cleaners. Whilst a group was cleaning windows, floors, and even vehicles, another group was either making a potjie or a braai in the backyard that we all enjoyed together after cleaning without having alcohol. Everyone were looking forward to the cleaning and socializing afterwards. This has brought camaraderie amongst the members and has definitely demonstrated the team spirit at the station. The team was a formidable team that I would go to war with at any time. We had time for laughter, play, and work. Members were always willing to go the extra mile and to offer up their free time and work long hours without claiming rest days, as no overtime was paid at the time. I wish I could mention some names of my team at that time, but would rather not, as I may just forget about someone and will not do justice to such one. To ensure that we take care of the members' well-being and fitness, we established a running and walking team at the station and would, instead of patrolling in a vehicle, walk or run in the areas that was identified by our information management officer as hotspots, increasing visibility while we have our workouts. Not to mention, this approach has yielded many successes, as we were able to put a lid on crime and identified areas and even make successful arrests on our exercising journey. The teams would do door-to-door visit and interact with community, subduing the fears of the community and also obtaining information, which we were able to operationalize successfully. We started to play street games in gang-infested areas, closing down streets and playing with the children in front of drug outlets, resulting in the drug dealer not making any business for the hours, whilst other members were scouting the area and collect intelligence whilst interacting with the youth. We played street games such as soccer, touch rugby, netball, tennis, volleyball, three sticks, hockey and keniki. We built an obstacle course with tires, drums, street stumps and trees, which was always a favorite of the children. On sport days, women in the community made food and supplied fruit and juice to the children, and of course, us who participated. We blended in with the community and they came to learn that police officers are human beings that also had the need to socially connect with those they served. I identified challenges for policing in my precinct and was of the opinion that I can better serve the community if I deploy more vehicles, as the station served a very diverse community. I compiled a well-researched and motivated report together with an operational plan to the area commissioner requesting vehicles for the station. No need to say that I had no reply despite making follow-up inquiries. The area commissioner at that time was the same brigadier who was my station commander at Mitchell's Plain. I already knew that he would not support any of my efforts, but still requested assistance and ensured proper record keeping of such requests. I knew he was going to abuse his authority in a way and would not support any effort of mine. I had to become creative in order to serve the community and to put a lid on crime, especially gang violence that erupted from time to time. I started to have interaction with the CPF and religious fraternity to develop a response to the gang violence. I knew that it was a societal problem and that it could not be addressed by the police alone. I made it my business to study the gangs, and I knew the history of gangs and also recall some experiences during my childhood days as I grew up in a gang-infested area. We decided on a two-pronged approach, community policing as well as intelligence-driven operations. We also have a community project where we do awareness raising such as school visits and addressing learners on the issue of gangsterism, having marches against gangsterism, while the religious leaders will have peace talks with gang leaders to subdue the violence. I established an intelligence collection team at the station to address the gang violence at the time and had great success as we confiscated many firearms and made high-profile arrests, putting a lid on the gang violence. The team will be hard at work during our community outreach programs to gather intelligence, and after such outreach, we will hit with operations. I remember one specific cordon search operation where we utilized commandos to cordon a specific area where we receive intelligence of the firearm channel of a particular gang. The operation came as a total surprise to the community, as no one was allowed to move in or out of the cordoned area. That morning we confiscated 13 firearms that were hidden in a pigeon cage that was guarded by bull terriers. The Area Commissioner heard about the intelligence collection team I have established and immediately transferred them to the area intelligence without consulting me. At the time, the stations did not have a structure for crime intelligence collection, and we also received no information or intelligence from the area intelligence to operationalize against gangsterism. That was the biggest threat in the station area. I knew I was set up to fail and being bullied, but instead empowered my community police forum, neighborhood watches and farm watches, and was still able to stabilize the area and decrease crime. Not once in 2 years I received a visit or support from the area commissioner, despite inviting him on a few occasions. I could not allow a community not being served and not addressing the biggest fear that the community had at the time, even though I had to stretch the resources at the station as a mother would stretch the little money she had for a meal to feed a family and the neighborhood. The very first thing I did as a station commander was to obtain the last 2 inspectorate reports and to work through it thoroughly to ensure that we were in compliance with all non-compliance that were identified. Through this process, I have established that many members in the support environment did not understand the job description and the legal framework in which they should operate. They could not tell me what the national instructions were that guided the execution of their functions. I sat with each component and made a file with the legal framework for each component that includes all the acts, the regulations, standing orders and national instructions. They had to study the legal framework, and I have also let them write tests on it. The station commander, Clark, had to collect registers on Friday afternoons from various offices. As per the list, I would compile and place it on my office table so that I could inspect every register on the station each month. As you know, there were registers that has to be inspected daily, others weekly and others monthly. So those registers were never inspected during normal working hours, as there were never enough time on hand to do so. I would report on duty with a morning shift at 5:45 on a Saturday morning, inspect the parade, and then after that I would do the inspection of my registers till after lunchtime. As a station commander, I also inspected SAP 13s physically every month. Yes, to the current station commanders, I know it takes a lot of time, but if your docket management is in place, there should only be exhibits in SAP 13s of cases that are still in court. You have to monitor your exhibit store together with your cases in court, and those cases where exhibits were not needed in court, the prosecutor can give permission for exhibits to be destroyed. I was very particular inspecting drugs, money and firearms in the SAP 13, as these are the exhibits that are and still are at risk of corruption. As a station commander, you must know the guidelines related to exhibit management and the Firearms Control Act to guide members on the different functions. Let me not linger too much on this, because this is a topic on its own that will either keep a station commander out of prison or send them to prison, if not handled according to prescripts. I know that many station commanders do not understand the process with exhibit firearms, and also the training provided to station commanders in this regard is not adequate. I made a study of the SAP 6 monthly to monitor the production of the detectives and mainly focused on cases to court and conviction rate, as that ultimately shows what the satisfaction level of the complainants will be. I would also make an in-depth study of the production of each detective, identify the underperformance in terms of cases to court and conviction rate, and then target them to do docket inspection. This approach did not sit well with the branch commander, as he was of the opinion that I should include withdrawals in the success rate. I stuck to my approach and forced detectives not to work for the archives, but to really serve those who needed to experience that justice was done. I attended detective parades unannounced and ensured that Bathopele principles are upheld. I developed a questionnaire for complainants and conducted weekly surveys to ensure that complainants are provided with information about the case number, name and contact details of the investigation officer and progress on the case. I used the parades to make such calls in the presence of the branch commander and investigating officers, putting the phone on speaker, and if the investigation officer did not provide the information to the client, he was allowed to give information or address any queries by the complainant immediately. After such survey, I would complete the SAP 135 of the investigation officer with regard to such surveys. At first it was not well received by detectives, but as they attended lectures and client service and about the Bathopele principles, they knew what was expected from them. Being a station commander in the police is the post that brought me the most satisfaction. If I should be asked to serve again, I would choose to be a station commander. It is also the most loneliest post in the South African Police Service, as it is expected that you should be everything to everyone at all times. I have not made it a secret to my members how lonely it is in my office, and that I often need them to ask me how I am doing, and that resulted in members taking a keen interest in what I was doing and to support every initiative and project at the station. A station commander cannot operate as an island. You need everyone at the station to be on the bus with you and to share your vision. It is important to appreciate every member at your station, no matter what their functions are. In closing, it is the 50th year of celebrating women in police. You are invited to celebrate the year of Jubilee with serving and non-serving women on the 20th of March 2022 at Voortrekker Monument in Pretoria. And for more information, you can check the Facebook page, Suid-Afrikaanse Polisievroue, 1972 to 1994. I thank you. Be blessed.